1,000 racers that visit every week. A low cost of $4.99 a month will allow you to feature up to 3 divisions in Grid Finder's newest section. That's only $1.25 a week to make sure you have a full grid for your next cash, league, or race. The special iRacers Lounge offer, sign up now and get a free week. This is only good for the rest of December, so get your cash league signed up now. Grid Finder, the home of online sim racing leagues. And with that, let's talk to our Pro Series champion, Isaac Gann. Welcome.
Thank you. Appreciate you having me on, and it's fun. I'm happy to do this.
All right, great. We like to get to know all the Coke drivers that haven't been on the show. We've had most of them on, but obviously a new crop here for 2021, and you're leading the field. So, but first, before we get into that, let's go back in time. What brought you to iRacing? And how did you first hear about iRacing the first time?
Yeah, so I actually heard about iRacing I don't know, it was maybe 10 years ago. It was right around the time that the DWC stuff was starting, and you had Dale Jr. and some of those other guys, Richard Towler, and they were all in there, and they were. I don't know exactly where I saw it, but I remember maybe seeing a few YouTube videos where Junior was kind of talking about it, and watched a few of the DWC races at that time, and was like, oh, that's kind of cool. That they got a new little iRacing thing going on, and didn't really think too much of it at the time. But it was in, I think, maybe fall of 2014. One of my buddies, because at that time I was kind of dabbling in NASCAR racing, 2003 season, and at that time there were still a lot of people that were playing it, and one of my buddies that I was doing a lot of league races with on there at that time, he was like, hey, iRacing's got this, I think it was like 3 months for $5 or something like that. You ought to hop on, and we'll do some Legends races and street stock and stuff, and we'll just kind of mess around. And so I was like, yeah, sure, I'll do that, and got on and just kind of messed around, and quickly found that it was a lot of fun, and I really enjoyed it. So I guess that's kind of how I got started.
Okay, very good. I was just looking at your profile to see what you race, and boy, your overall winning percentage, 36% in oval, 52% in road, 17% in dirt oval, dirt road, 50%. Those are some of the best numbers we've seen of any guest on the show. So those are so obviously you know how to win.
Yeah, I mean, I guess maybe some of those numbers are a little bit inflated, I would say, because pretty much all I race is oval. I think I've maybe only done maybe 10 or 15 of the dirt road, and the road races. I don't know exactly how many I've done, but mainly I'm an oval racer, so some of those percentages might on the other stuff would probably be, like I said, a little bit inflated. But yeah, I mean, I took to it pretty well, pretty quickly. It didn't take me, when I first started, it was maybe a couple months to where after that I kind of figured out what the differences were in iRacing compared to some of the older sims that I was running, and kind of got up into the higher, got through the license classes, got to Class A pretty quick, and started getting my iRating up pretty quick. And once I was kind of running like national cars, the ARCA cars and stuff on some of the lower splits, and I was winning those pretty easily. I guess at the time I was quote unquote farming, but I didn't really think of it at the time. I was just, it was new to me, and I was just like, heck, I want to, even if I'm winning these races pretty easily, like I just want to keep doing it, because it was fun. And I eventually got to the point where I started running in like some B fixed and A fixed and stuff at the time, and saw that there were, like, I could qualify up front and kind of run up front for 20, 25 laps, and then some of the, a lot of those, I remember Justin Bolton, for whatever reason, I remember him like vividly in my brain, just absolutely waxing me at Texas in the B car. And I probably finished second or third in that race still, but I remember he was just pulling away, and I was like, man, there's still something that I'm missing, even though I felt like I got pretty good pretty quick. There was still something that I had to figure out, and so over time I kind of watched different videos and got some tips and tricks from some of the guys that were really good, and was able to once I kind of got those little tricks, then it was pretty easy for me to start doing pretty well and competing really well.
Okay, and I was just looking at what you were running here recently. Since the Pro Series wrapped up, it looks like you've run some A, B, and C, both open and fixed.
Yeah, the open stuff is right now I think more fun, just because with the way the sim is right now, it's fixed racing is, in my opinion, a little bit mundane, and I think that sentiment's probably shared by a lot of not just me, but a lot of people, and so I like the open racing more right now, just because it kind of spreads out a little bit more, and it gets a little bit more. It allows you to kind of, even though it's open setup, in my opinion, open setup racing allows driver to play more of a role, because you don't have everybody just sitting right on top of each other, nose to tail on a line, and so race strategy and long run speed and stuff like that kind of comes into play a little bit more than in the fixed stuff, where a lot of times you get a caution every 10 laps, and it's kind of just like, typically it's just like 10 lap sprints, just who can qualify up front and just just burn the fastest times, and not make a mistake and not let anybody behind you give them a chance to get under you or anything. So yeah, right now I think I like the open stuff a lot more than I do the fixed, but I do run fixed every now and again, just if I'm bored and just want to do something to kind of pass the time.
All right, very good. Let's switch gears to hardware, software. I mean, what kind of monitors, or is it VR? What kind of wheel and pedal do you use, and that kind of thing?
Yeah, so I got a 32-inch monitor, and I just run on a single. I don't have triples or anything like that. No VR. It's a 1440p monitor. So I mean, it's all right. It's pretty decent. It runs smooth for me and everything, but it's not, I don't have like a crazy setup like a lot of people do. I run a G29 wheel, and then Fanatec pedals. They're not the V3s. I think they're the CSLs, I think. So nothing too crazy. I'm more kind of a guy where I like to just, once I get used to something, I kind of just like to stick with it, and if I switch equipment, it takes me a little while to get used to it again, even if it's better, like if it's more expensive or better or whatever. It kind of, I don't know. I like consistency, and I like having a certain feel. Like even my desk, even my chair that I sit in has to, like, I have to have it at a certain height and everything, and like the desk has to be the same desk. Like if I were to switch desks, I would just, it just throws me off. Like I'm really weird that way. But yeah, it's nothing too fancy for me.
Okay, what about software? Any third-party software while you're racing besides like TeamSpeak or?
Yeah, no, I use Discord and TeamSpeak every once in a while, but mainly just Discord, and then some people use Caps and other stuff like that. I don't. I just run the sim and do the races, and I don't really have anything extra really.
All right, let's talk about the team and a little bit about why you decided to get into the Road to Pro and make your way onto the Coke Series. When I look at your iRating graph, it was pretty consistent from 2014 up until recently, this last year, and then it just jumped. And what made you choose to go this path?
Yeah, so I was kind of off and on with iRacing. I'd get on for maybe 2 or 3 months, and then I'd take a break. That's where my chart just kind of has a solid horizontal line, is where I just wasn't really racing. And so I would kind of, like I said, go 3 months and then have like 6 or 7 months where I wasn't on, wasn't doing anything. And I think I kind of decided to I tried Road to Pro in 2019, and at that time I don't want to say I was forced into it, because I definitely, I chose to run it, but I was kind of just running it just for the experience. I wasn't really taking it too serious, and I ran the races and wanted to do as well as I could, but I didn't have a whole lot of time invested in it. And looking back on it now, I'm a little bit, I wish I would have spent more time and invested more time, because there was other people around me that were investing way more time into the setups and testing and stuff than I was. And so long story short, I kind of ran like half the season and then ended up quitting. And as Blake McCandless always likes to say on the broadcast, I was leading the points like 6 or 7 races into that season when I quit. And so then this year, I think it was like last maybe August, I think, is when I was like, okay, they changed the truck. I don't really like how they took away RPM and stuff. And I was just like, I didn't like what they were doing with the Cup car and stuff. So I was like, okay, I'm just going to take a break. And so I came back when it was really all this COVID stuff started. I'm in college right now. I'm a senior. And so, when I came home because of all the COVID stuff going on, I was like, well, let me get back on iRacing and see, just have some fun with it. And got on again, and I think it was like, it was March of this year, and I kind of just it all just kind of happened all at once. It was really weird. Like I had known Derek Justice for a long time, and he was kind of talking to me about, hey, I'm running this Road to Pro stuff. Or do you know anything about sets, or can you kind of help me out? And I was like, man, I don't really know anything. Like I've been totally out of the loop with that stuff. Like, I'm on right now. I just got it back, but I told him, like, I don't know how much I can do. I mean, maybe I can spot you. And he's like, oh, that'd be cool. So he ended up getting on the team that we're on now. It's called Norse Force Racing, and he was like, hey, I can probably get you on as a spotter, right? So I was like, yeah, that'd be cool. And I told him when Matt Fortune, who's the team owner of Norse Force, when I talked to him initially, when I first got on the team, I was like, hey, it's really funny now in hindsight, but at the time I was like, don't expect me to like be on every day, like doing tons and tons of laps and stuff. Like, I'm just here to spot Derek. And so I think they were kind of struggling with Homestead a little bit in the Road to Pro. It was like the 3rd race of the season, I think. And I was like, okay, let me do a few 30-lap runs and just kind of see what I can, just see what I can do, and see if I can, if I can keep up with Derek and some of these other guys on the team. And that kind of just got the ball rolling. And Matt eventually was like, hey, you look pretty quick. Why don't you just go ahead and not spot Derek and just run the race? So I ran that race, and I wrecked out like in the very beginning of the race, because I didn't have that much time invested in it, and I didn't really care too much, to be quite frank with you. And but then Atlanta, I think, was the next race, and I love that track, so I was like, yeah, I want to try this. I want to see what we got. And our setup guy, Vince Marsh, he put out a set early in the week, like right after Homestead, and I tried it, and I was like, holy smokes, this thing's flying. And they all kind of laughed at me like, yeah, right, there's no way that stuff. I told them, I was like, this is going to win the race. Like, you guys don't understand. This thing is really, really good. And they're like, okay, whatever. And we ended up, I think, like, there's 5 different splits that were won by our guys. Derek won top split, I won second split, and then some of the splits, like maybe 4th or 5th split on down. I know that I'm pretty sure there's five of us in 5 different splits that won, and on the same team on Norse Force. And that's when I saw how many points I gained from that. That's when I was like, oh, okay, I was figuring up the math and everything and how many races were left, and I was like, oh, okay, I might actually have a shot if I just keep getting like top 10s every race, and I stay in second split where the competition's a little bit easier. I was like, I can still, even though I missed essentially the first 3 races, I can still make it in. So that's what kind of got me into the Road to Pro stuff this year. It's kind of a weird, crazy story, but yeah, it just kind of happened all of a sudden.
Yeah, and we've been watching Norse Force all year, and boy, what a team you guys have got together there. With yourself and Derek Justice, Zach Nichols, Brian Schoenberg, all advancing on to the 2021 Coke Series. You guys were looking pretty good out there.
Yeah, it was, when as I started doing better and better in the Road to Pro Series, and I realized that, hey, like I can make it in, I can make it to pro. I started really diving into, how do I tinker on these setups? How do I was asking Vince, who was by far the most knowledgeable guy on the team, especially with the truck. I started picking his brain because I knew nothing about. I just knew how to drive the car. I didn't know nothing about chassis, and he helped me. He gave me a ton of knowledge over the course of this year about how to tweak on stuff and what works and what doesn't, and I just kept going, getting more and more involved in the setup making process. And when we made it into pro, I told everybody on the team, I'm like, listen, I don't know what y'all are thinking, but I'm not going into this pro season just to say, oh heck, we made it to pro, that's cool, that's better than we thought we would have done as a team. Whatever happens, and we'll just take the result. I was like, no, like I don't know if we're gonna make top 20 or not. I don't know if I'm gonna make top 20 or not, but like it wasn't enough for me I didn't just want to squeak into the top 20. My mindset was, I want to go in and I want to make something happen. I want to compete, and my goal was I wanted to win at least one of the 6 races, and I ended up winning 2. And I ended up winning the points championship, which was crazy, and I definitely did not expect to do that. I can safely say I did not expect to do as well as I did, but I did go in with the mindset that I'm going to compete or I'm going to die trying, So I think everybody on the team just kind of like, it was almost, I don't want to say it was like a get behind me and get with me type of thing. It wasn't like that. It was just like I feel like everybody just worked so well together. Like it was such a team effort, especially the final 3 races of the pro season. We all kind of had a meeting and we're just like, hey, listen. Like at that time, I think Schoenberg and Nichols were outside the top 20, and Schoenberg was honestly, like, I'll let you guys know, like, he was just down in the dumps. He was like, guys, I'm done. he was like my sim career is over. I'm sorry, guys. And we all just kind of had a meeting of the minds, and we're just like, hey, listen, these next 3 weeks, everybody on this team has just it's make or break now, right? And so we all just grinded so hard, and it worked out. I mean, those last 3 races of the season, I like to stay humble, but I mean, we kind of, as a team, we kind of dominated, and it was just, I really just feel like it's just because we outworked everybody else. We just never quit tinkering on the sets. We never quit testing. Everybody's positive attitude from that point forward just kind of rubbed off on everybody else, and I feel like that's why we had the success that we did.
Yeah, I mean, what you've been saying here is how important it is to be surrounded by a good team. You can't do this by yourself. Let's talk about your finishes in the Pro Series. You finished 28th at Daytona. Now, it's Daytona, so that might be expected. But then 11th, 3rd, 1st, and 1st. And so, yeah, you were smoking them there at the end, hot as heck. And, the guys are at the podium calling the race. they were just gushing over you, and they were even saying, "Hey, you might be a favorite for the 2021 Coke, even though you're going to be a rookie in the Coke Series."
Yeah, I did kind of. I didn't fully watch those races back from start to finish, but I did. After those races were over, I did take a peek at the podium broadcast, and I kind of did. I did hear a little bit of that stuff that they were saying, and it's flattering, and it's nice and everything. But I made sure to make a point to him when I was talking to him after the Homestead race that this is all fine and good, and the Pro Series is, that's one thing, but now it's on to the next step, and the Coke Series is a completely different animal, and I know that, and everybody on Norse Force knows that, and we're not. Again, we understand the challenge that's ahead, but we do not have the mentality of, we're just here to participate. That's not our mentality. That's not my mentality. And we may show up to the Coke Series, and we may run 30th every week. Who knows? There's no way of really knowing. Or we could do extremely well. We could run top 10, top 5 every week. There's no way of knowing. But the biggest thing with me is the same mindset that I had in Pro. I'm going to carry it into the Coke Series, which is I want to compete. I'm going to do everything that I can to compete, and if we don't have the speed, I don't care how long it takes, I don't care how late I got to stay up, what I got to do. Like, I'm going to sit here and grind on these setups until I figure out where the speed's at, and so that's the mentality we had, particularly the second half of the Pro season, and I think, and if like me personally, like if I'm going to be successful in this Coke Series, then if it ain't broke, don't fix it. I'm not going to change my mentality at all.
Yeah, I mean, we got a really good crop of rookie drivers coming in from the Pro Series. Garrett Maines and so forth is really hot. Derek, of course, Justice. And we're looking forward to seeing you guys perform. Norse Force has really opened a lot of eyes of what you guys are able to do, especially the last few races. And so I hope you guys do well. We'll be watching. Let's wrap it up with one more question. What is your most memorable iRacing moment so far?
Most memorable? Well, there's a lot of them. I mean, the easy choice, I guess, is winning this Pro Series, because that's, I guess, like the most glamorous thing that I've done so far, or it has the most. It's the one thing I've done that has like the most attention on it. But I don't know. There was a lot of really good racing on oval, particularly around like 2016 to 2018, and I was kind of off and on with iRacing through that time, but 2018 was really, really fun because the cars were really difficult to drive, and there was a lot, like everybody was having, and the multi-groove worked beautifully, and there was so much there was so much competition, and all, like, you'd step into an NIS and there'd be, the top split at NIS, it'd basically be like a Coke field, or at that time it was peak, and it was really, really good racing, and it was difficult. So I would say, like, overall, I don't know if I have a specific moment or a specific race or anything. I mean, if a specific moment would probably just be winning the Pro Series, but overall, probably the most enjoyment I've ever had doing this was maybe 2 or 3 years ago when I was doing some of those like, it's particularly the NIS races they were fantastic. So I would say that's probably my answer.
Yeah, I think we all miss the old NASCAR package. We're begging for them to bring that back. Yeah, it was some good racing. Well, Isaac Gann, congratulations on making it to the Coke Series, winning the Pro Series. I think you're well positioned to run well, and we look forward to watching, and we'll see you out on the track.
Alrighty, guys. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you having me on, and we're gonna go get him. We're gonna see what we can do. That's for sure.
All right, you get it. And like I told you before, we'll be reviewing the Coke races on our show and talking about it. We'll have you on when you win, okay?
When I win? All right, 10-4.
All right, well, thank you for coming. And with that, we're going to move into topics. Topics are sponsored by Schoolyard Setup. Struggling to crawl into the top 10 in Road to Pro? Always in the back of the Xfinity and can't find that extra tenth to compete in the NIS? Visit schoolyardsetups.com and get race-ready setups for the NASCAR A, B, and C each week. Enter referral code LOUNGE with a capital L when you sign up to let them know you heard about it from them on the iRacers Lounge podcast. Don't get bullied around on the racetrack again. Get your sets today at schoolyardsetups.com.
So the Wonder Woman movie has been, I guess, met with mixed reviews on my Facebook time. What about you guys?
It's not mixed on mine. It's all bad.
Yeah, it's been mostly bad. Well, we have the Wonder Woman car, actually. Art McEwen posted a video showing a replay of his Dallara LMP2, and basically the wheels are there, and maybe the windscreen, and the entire rest of the car. Yeah, the shadow's there. The entire rest of the car is gone, and he's actually got video of it showing, and it's happening for every car, actually, not just his.
I don't think we've ever seen something like that before. That's a new one.
That's like an odd glitch to have.
Yeah, and from the in-car cam, you can actually see the steering wheel, right? Or just the display of his steering wheel. Not even the handles, just the display as he's driving around the track. And the wheels in the corner of the screen. It's crazy.
And is it the wheels that you like? It's the steel part of the wheel. It's not the rubber part of the wheel that you can see.
Yeah, it looks like it's just the rim and maybe just a little bit of the rubber surrounding the rim, but that's it. No other part of the wheel showing.
Why is it showing like that?
It's the oddest looking video you've ever seen, and you can kind of see the windshield, but it's like invisible, just like the Wonder Woman car, where you can kind of see a silhouette of it, but you can see right through it. Kind of cool looking.
Would net code be in effect with this kind of car?
Who knows? Well, in the forum thread, Greg West actually asked for a copy of his review play and his graphic settings, which is unusual. I've seen Greg ask for replays of what's going on, but I've never seen him ask for a graphic settings. And some of the other people in that comments in that forum thread thought that it might actually be on a GPU driver issue specific to his PC, not necessarily an iRacing issue. So I haven't heard any conclusions to that story yet, but that's the way that the forums kind of went in that thread there.
It seems to be a unique issue to one person. I haven't seen multiple people do this.
Could you imagine watching an invisible car like that run along the wall?
Yeah, you might be able to see the air bubble that's in the new programming. Because Anthony Alfredo, Fast Pasta, the NASCAR Xfinity driver, he posted a video of himself testing the new wall proximity model at the Homestead, which is the track that everybody likes to run up at the wall. And he's comparing it to his past experience on iRacing with running the wall at Homestead and his real life experience as well. And so it's a really good video. It's about 12 minutes long, so he really goes into depth. He runs a bunch of laps. And he shows you how he runs the wall, gives you some pointers on running the wall, and he goes over the replays, shows you where he made mistakes himself. And overall, he said he definitely feels a big difference with that wall proximity model, with the air buildup that comes off the side of the car when you get close to the wall like that.
A fascinating video. I actually learned something about how to run the wall by watching this. I mean, he really describes the hard part of getting into the corner and not getting away from the wall. And there's definitely a technique to it. He did talk a lot about his experience at the real Homestead track, and he got a P4 there, and he was saying it's one of his best tracks, and pretty proud of that. But yeah, don't forget Anthony's been on our show about a year ago, a little less than a year ago. We'll try to get him on again. I hear he's going to have a cup ride with Front Row. But a great video. If you want to figure out that air bubble on the wall, take the 13 minutes and watch this, because it is fascinating.
Now, we had a inquiry, I don't know, was it last week or so ago, that from one of our biggest fans, I guess, Fatboy 1990. He wanted to know if we had our own paint jobs that our listeners could use. So, being us, we went right to our source for our paint jobs, Bobby Jonas, and he fired up 3 different cup paints, all the same way, but they all look great in the Chevy, Ford, and the Toyota. And so you guys can go into Trading Paints and download an iRacers Lounge podcast paint scheme and run around the track.
And as far as I know, Tyler has the first win in this paint, and he did post up on Twitter. I think you won a Carb Cup race, so congratulations, Tyler.
Yeah, it's a really cool paint job too. I really like it. If you haven't seen it before, it's all dark blue, like a navy blue with a white hood. The iRacers Lounge logo on the hood, and on the side of the car has like the equalizer levels look to it.
Sound meter.
To tie in. Yeah, sound meter look to it that ties in with the audio portion of the show. And it's a really cool looking car. It's definitely something you might want to think about loading into your Trading Paints and getting on the track with.
All right, I got the next one. iRacing put up a pretty cool little video to kind of detail out that these guys are code builders, not racers necessarily. They have a staff race, apparently, amongst their staff members, and they were at Long Beach, and they kind of highlighted why maybe they're not racers in real life, but they went through that hairpin, and sure enough, stacked them all up, blocked the track, and everybody piled in. Kind of one of those interesting wrecks.
Yeah, that hairpin at Long Beach is treacherous. They even had an accident on the pace laps on the Long Beach race there. That's a treacherous turn. I practiced it with the new Lamborghini Huracan. It's hard to make that turn. I mean, even with nobody else on the track with you, I had a hard time making that turn without hitting the wall on the exit. It's crazy.
That might be the tightest radius turn in the service, right?
I don't know of anything tighter than that.
It's kind of reminded me of that video. I don't think we've, really ever talked about it on the show, but it's been passed around our chat a bunch. The RC cars on the big oval, and they get into that one corner and just wreck, and just everybody just constantly keeps plowing into it. Kind of reminded me of that.
It's definitely the music makes it the best part, though, right? That's the thing that's awesome about it.
IMSA was there this week, and I believe Le Mans Series or Euro Series is there next week. I don't know if I'll buy it or not. We'll see. Actually, we're going to have to buy it for majors.
Gotcha. Yeah, the music is that the theme to, like, The Sting? Is that what that was? The old Robert Redford movie?
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
Well, I've got another good video here. We've talked about all of the new GT3 cars that have come out, and they recently did a whole big balance of power pass on it. Podcast listener Craig Reams sent us this video, and it's actually from Bo Albert, and he compares all 7 of the cars. He tries tests for top speed, acceleration, a lot of different categories. Right now, he rates the Lamborghini as the top by a sizable margin over all the others, including taking the top lap time at Twin Ring. Now, I don't know if he did lap times at every track, because that can be a factor. Different track cars tend to do better at different tracks depending on the characteristics of the track. And also, there is something to be said for driving style being suited towards certain cars. I just can't get a good lap in a Corvette, whereas the Ferrari is pretty easy. But it's a good watch. It's only about 9 minutes long, and I am going to point this out to Christian, who just started working up at iRacing, because he asked us, all the guys in the major series, to toss him any feedback about the balance of power. He's kind of the guy who headed up that entire project. That was his first job.
Well,
I mean,
go ahead,
I was
Mike.
going to say, Bo Albert, I mean, he did a lot of work on this video. I mean, it's a very scientific kind of study where he compares, not only lap times, but fuel usage, tire wear off, lap times, sector times, everything, and amongst all the cars. And he talks about, how they feel as well. It was pretty interesting watch.
Well, and
Yeah, go ahead, Greg. Sorry.
I was just gonna say, the thing here is this is it's never gonna be perfect, right? Like it's close every week, but we have week by week you get to figure out what car is going to be faster in all those road series, like David was saying, and it's really, really going to be a difficult thing, but a lot of effort and a lot of ways to figure, a lot of variables that are really hard to go by to figure that out would be really difficult to make the accurate decision on what car to drive. But I think it's more, I always just pick the one I like to drive the best, right? David, it's kind of the same for you, right?
Yeah, it can come down to driving style, what feels the best. Now, in real life, every week, they basically have a whole series of lobbyists at IMSA griping at the sanctioning body, saying, no, this car's too fast, or this car has too much downforce. NASCAR used to be the old way before they had the more, uniform body styles. They were constantly lobbying for different spoiler angles or leaks and such. So it's just like in real life, really. They're always going to have to be playing with balance of power. It's a never-ending project.
Oh, the lobbying is still going on, I assure you. If you check the forums, everybody's lobbying Christian. Christian Challenger is watching these races very closely. The last thing I saw from him about it was he wasn't going to change anything until they got to Phillip Island, and he wanted to see what happened at that particular track.
Yeah, and I'll just back up that it's a really well produced video from Bill Albert. And Bill Albert is a former, or I think he's a former, but he's a Porsche top level driver. So he has like credentials. He's not just somebody who just videos together. He's very highly credentialed at iRacing and put a lot of time in this video. It's really neat. And the way he did it was like for the top speed, he just put all the tracks at the new iRacing Super Speedway, see which one has the top speed. For the acceleration, they did the drag strip at Sonoma. The lap time was done at Twin Ring Motegi, and his explanation was, it had a lot of curvy parts to it, so it kind of balanced out some of the longer stretches with the curvy parts. So it's really interesting to watch. I really enjoyed watching the whole thing. It was really good.
Yeah, Twin Ring features quite a few corners, but it also it's mostly a couple of corners and then a really long straight, and then a couple of corners and then a really long straight. Whereas like Road Atlanta, there's one straight.
And it's got that high-speed kink corner, right?
Yeah, every track has its own personality.
Yeah, and to be fair with all these cars, the lap times at the Twin Motegi, when he did that, I mean, we're talking like a couple of tenths of a second off. It's not 2 seconds or anything like that between the first and last place car. So, I mean, it's not a big difference.
And if it's only tenths, then draft and everything like that can help adjust the cars too. If he's doing this by himself, once you're in a draft, straightaways you can kind of gain time and lose time that way anyways.
It sounds to me like, after watching this video, that the BOP is actually pretty darn balanced, and iRacing works really hard on that, I'm sure. Is it any surprise that the newest car is the fastest, or the one that, Bo ended up picking? Probably not. I mean, I don't know if iRacing does that on purpose, but I'm sure it drives sales.
Well, Christian said he was the one who headed up this project and he tested every single one of them and tried to get him as balanced as he could for his driving style as his job. So it could come down to something as simple as the Lamborghini suits Bo's style just a little bit better than Christian's. All right, but Christian is he could probably race a boxcar faster than anybody else.
Yeah, former Coke driver and now iRacing employee.
So, guys, while we're talking about the GT3 series, Greg West, he posted in the forums that there's a new manual in the iRacing car manual page, and they have added the new Lamborghini Huracan GT3 Evo to the list of the existing car books, where you can really look deep into the car and see its features and all that stuff. So that's a neat improvement.
Yeah, these manuals are something else. I mean, when you open them and go through them, they're easy to read. They're nice to look at. They have great, pictures and whatnot, but lots of descriptions. I mean, just like looking at the dash, and it tells you exactly what every little thing is on the dash, and it gives a description and talks about how the wings are set and arrows calculated and just everything that you need to know.
You know what? This would be really. Sorry, Brian. This would be really good for when, some people like myself. I sometimes, print some of these things up, and you can just you either have them on your computer, you can have them in a book or something too. It can, quick reference if you're in sim to look at something if you don't know, right? Like it's really in depth here. I'm showing on the broadcast, like it shows a part of the dash that normally we don't look at, right? So you don't know all the things on the dash. I don't know, David, when you race the Ferrari I'm still getting to know the Ford. I don't know if you know everything on the, looks like David's not there, but, I don't know all the things on the dash that I just know the ones that I need, and it's just nice to actually know exactly what you have there for the dash.
Well, that's the thing I'm getting at is before these manuals, which, they just come out with these in the last couple months, there was really no way to figure this out. I mean, you just, it's kind of word of mouth, I guess.
Well, it's like even the data here, like shift lights. So like one green light is 65, or on the Hurricane or the Lamborghini, one green light is 6650, two green lights is 6800, three green lights is 6950, four green lights is 71, and then when it goes into yellow, it's in the 7250. Like that stuff, if you really want to tune in when you're shifting and everything like that.
Yeah, it's a very comprehensive guide to each of these cars. There's 5 of them now that they've released, if you count all the Cup cars as one. So all 3 of the Cup cars are in one separate manual. And then they have the new IR01, the Dallara car, the small block 358 modifieds, and the LMP2, the Dallara P217.
Like, the more they get of this, like, obviously they're way behind because this is something that they've been doing over the years here, but, man, it's interesting if they could get caught up on a lot of these things. Like, the one that I would like is I know they have the LMP2 here. One for everybody would be the Dallara LMP1, probably the F1 car, the Indy car. Things like that would be the more convenient ones to have for some of the more difficult ones, right?
Yeah, exactly. And as I go down to the bottom, I mean, man, it's got stuff like camber and caster and rebound damping and compression damping, and it gives a very detailed description about what that means and how it's set up on this particular car.
What the fuck did he do?
Very cool. All right, I got the next one. We got listener Matt Crockett sent us in about the Bandit Racing League. They're doing recruiting for its Wednesday night Xfinity Series. The league will begin on January 27th at Daytona, and all races will be broadcast by the Evanwald Media on YouTube. So I haven't heard of this one before, Bandit Racing League. We need to get him hooked up on the Grid Finder.
Yeah, I was searching for him up on the Grid Finder, but I don't see him there. That's where you want to be for sure. That's where the eyeballs are looking for these leagues nowadays.
Yeah, so Wednesday night Xfinity should be fun. So check out the Bandit Racing League. They are on Facebook.
So we talked about a lot the explosion of iRacing on TV a little bit as we were going through quarantine. Well, Adam Stern has recently tweeted that NASCAR and iRacing are in talks to possibly airing some shows on Fridays, since most of the shows at the real track are going to end up being one-day shows, or just 2-day shows. So they're going to have some open time on Friday nights, and they're looking to air some races. So it may be Coke Series, or who knows, maybe they'll throw in a top split NIS.
It doesn't say. I mean, with no practice and qualifying, they're going to continue that. Yeah, I think they feel like there's a hole there, and they said maybe Friday or Saturday broadcast windows. Now, the big question is it the Coke Series? Is it, like you said, NIS? Is it the actual Cup drivers? Now, I think in our discussion in our chat, I don't know if it would be the actual Cup drivers. Are those guys going to dedicate that kind of time to it? Are they? I mean, they're going to be traveling to tracks usually on Friday.
Yeah, if it's held live, there's no way it's going to be the actual drivers, because it's right in the middle of the race weekend. I mean, unless it was recorded earlier in the week. But I, for one, hope it's not the actual real drivers. I hope it's legitimate iRacing drivers who get a chance to get this kind of exposure. And I really think if some people really give it a chance, I think that it can really explode this iRacing as a serious broadcast on regular TV.
What about a mix? What about maybe it's not the Coke Series, but maybe it's the Coke drivers in a non-point situation like an invitational, and then they bring in special guests, Kyle Busch and Denny Hamlin and Kevin Harvick and those kind of guys, and they bring in 6 or 7 drivers that can run with them. I think that would be fascinating and certainly would hopefully draw in those NASCAR eyeballs.
Let's just not have 2 or 3 fast repairs.
Yeah, really. And I think the key to what you said, if they bring in just a handful or a couple of actual drivers, is they'd have to be able to keep up, because I don't think they're going to want to go in these races and just get totally destroyed. It's not going to do their image all that well.
That's a good point. I mean, would they be embarrassed out there? I mean, if you had Dale Jr. or somebody like that on the track, Kevin Harvick, would they be back in 30th if they were out with all the Coke drivers? It's very likely.
Yeah, I think so.
Not once they get it. There's guys are real racers. It's just a matter of getting used to the different format. Remember how Kyle Busch had a rough start, but by the end he was right up in the front.
Yeah.
This would be a great opportunity for the Coke Series. I know they're slated for another day and everything, but that could change in a blink of an eye if the right things were called. But it would help with we watch on a weekly basis the real racing, and then you got the Coke Series. It's got a bit of a narrative. You can it's not just guys kind of jumping in and jumping out. These guys are racing week in, week out. Their storyline. It could be, like what Brian would say, is to kind of, push the esports to the next level. We've seen what it did this year already earlier on, but now if you get a legitimate, competitors that are competing for something, they bring in more of the drivers. We get to see more of the drivers and what's happening. Just kind of like the real thing, right? Just bring those stories to life. I think there could definitely be something there.
And Tony's right on the money there. The personalities and the storylines are what bring us to racing. It's not just about the cars; it's about those people in those cars.
Yeah, I agree. I agree 1,000% with Dave and Tony on this, because even if it's not necessarily the actual Coke race series that they're broadcasting, maybe they could set up their own series just for these broadcasts, and then have points carry over from one week to the next, or if there's a week where there's a full NASCAR weekend and they don't have the time for this schedule, then just schedule it during those weeks. Have it be its own series, maybe, where you can follow the storylines week to week as the season progresses, and these championship races, the points start to become heated and stuff.
Is it realistic if it was an all cup, real cup drivers on a Friday night? I don't know if it is, but the way I read this report from Adam Stern at the Sports Business Journal, it almost feels like that's the way it's going. I mean, he doesn't specify, but that's kind of reading between the lines. That's the way I read it.
Imagine if a driver's pissed off from the Friday night virtual race and then takes it out at the real race.
Carry on.
Well, I'm going to say, there's some good storyline to talk about, so I guess in that kind of sense that would work too.
You wrecked me virtually, so I'm going to take you out with the more expensive car?
Yep. Doesn't matter where you get the butt hurt, it's still a butt hurt.
It's true.
Well, looking forward to that. I'm glad to hear that they're at least discussing it, planning something. If it is going to be the Coke series, that's going to be a drastic change to the Coke series, because that's every other week. That's every 2 weeks. That would have to change, obviously, and then obviously the day would have to change as well. And so there's a lot of factors.
If the Coke ran a more compressed series, then the Pro Series could have a little bit more time.
Yeah,
that's a whole other topic.
That's a whole can of worms you don't want to open up right now.
Well, let's talk about Pro and Road to Pro, Brian.
Yeah, so we just had Isaac on. He wound up taking the championship in that Pro Series, and after that season finished up, a bomb went off when Malik Ray tweeted. Malik Ray tweeted that, and I quote, "You guys will never have the 40 best drivers if everything continues to be open." So Malik Ray is basically saying that he thinks that all these series should, the Pro and the Road to Pro should all be fixed series events and no open setups, and that way you'll get the best drivers. So that was that exploded in the iRacing world and the sim racing world.
Yeah, this is a big topic over the last couple of weeks, actually. A huge discussion on Twitter, for sure.
Malik, you're wrong. End of discussion.
Well, the worst part is it doesn't. That's not how. There's only certain series in real life that works where the cars are equal. But guess what? When you build a car, they're never equal. No matter what, if you built it the same way, they're never equal. NASCAR doesn't. What I was saying is, even in NASCAR, you have people that run in the back that don't have good setups, don't have money, don't have all that. You get guys in the front that have the money and all the teams and have the knowledge, and it's always open. It's always been an open series. If you're looking for a fixed series, then maybe, do they cut off and make a different type of championship, which I don't agree with either, but it makes no sense to bring something fixed, because that doesn't give you the best drivers. That gives you the best drivers for the setup that's fixed.
Also, even in IROC, all the drivers knew that some cars just turned out better than other cars when they were sitting there basically trying to make the entire car spec.
Well, everything's measured and machined to a certain thing, but anybody that has a background in producing something knows that it never ends up being the same. And it just goes with the same of us. There's 5 of us here on the show. None of us can drive the fixed setup the same way, right? We all have the same different feeling of driving a fixed setup. So how is that a fair, it wouldn't make it any fairer. Even if we all had the same talent, if one adapted to a setup better, it doesn't make any difference.
Right, if you can drive a tight setup, then you might be good, right? If it's But yeah, this is an interesting discussion. Ray Alfala, he tweeted, yeah, let's do it in Coke too. He seemed to like the idea. Bobby Zielinski didn't like the idea. Keegan Leahy sounded like he didn't like the idea. So there's definitely a discussion. People like it both ways. Brian Mercurio said Colin Keister would be undefeated if everything was fixed.
Well, if you notice the guys that complained to the guys that didn't, the guys that wanted the fixed have the ones that have been struggling with the new car model. Some guys like that old horsepower car. Imagine going to a fixed setup with that old horsepower car and trying doing all this stuff. Like, it makes a difference. The aero car is really hard to develop for because you're in a tight pack for a while. But it's like, do you want to stop it being competitive, or you want it to be a tight pack? And what was the race? Was it Texas that was all those wrecks near the end, and things like that? Like, do you need every race to end up like that? Because that's what a fixed race probably would end up.
Yeah, the fixed setups, like our guest said, just lead to even tighter racing.
Yeah, it didn't sound like Isaac Gann would be a fan of that. Now, Bo Albert, who we talked about before, he put out a video about this and talked about in his video all the different people's ideas about is this good or not. Tyler Hudson actually weighed in on the forums and basically said this is not on our radar. We're not planning on doing this. In the real world, it's an open setup, and this is the premier level of esports, motorsports, esports, and we have no intention of going fixed. So Tyler pretty much shut it down pretty quick, but it shows an interesting topic.
Well, the other thing is could any of these guys be really, really, like, I have a feeling that I had a different point at it. Could it be the fact that there's a lot more rookies this year, and the old boys club that had the same drivers for the last, 8 years, the majority where they only have a couple new guys come in, is starting to get mixed up more, and some of the guys that have been in there for a long time, they've lost their shot at being in there, or it's not as easy to be in there anymore. Like, I'm thinking there's just, the crop is about to change of who's racing in there, because what do we have, 12 new rookies? I think it was 12, wasn't it?
I found the quote from Tyler. It says, "This is the top of the mountain. It should encompass everything that the sim has to offer, including custom setups, working with teammates to build setups, positioning yourself to be on good teams, etc. This is a very real aspect of sim racing, and I don't think that we should take this away anytime soon."
Couldn't have said that much better.
Well, it's a good thing that they nipped it in the butt, too, so that it's not something that was lingering, too, online, right? I'm sure they're still arguing about it, but at least they've put their foot down and said that this is what's going to happen.
Yeah, Jimmy Mullis on Twitter, he actually wrote up several paragraphs and posted out his thoughts about it. He wasn't a fan. He thinks that, you should work hard on those setups and you'll be rewarded for your effort. But that's the other thing. If it was a fixed setup, it would probably cut a lot of testing time for these guys. They wouldn't have to be on the sim, every night.
But that's what this should be about. If you're running at the top level, like, this is a team sport, it is in real life. It should be in the simulated world as well. But if you want to compete at that top level and you want to continue to have that top level competition, you need to be putting that time in. That it's kind of like, earning your badge.
And I mentioned that with the interview with Isaac too. I mean, it was all about North Force Racing, and he told us about his journey, going onto that team, how they started clicking. They had great setups. It encouraged him to participate in the Road to Pro. And it led him to the championship in the Pro, and he couldn't have done that without the team. It is a team sport.
Do you think that could possibly discourage some of the team owners that have been investing in these cup drivers, these Coke drivers,
Could be.
Well, Elliott Sadler came in and invested in several teammates and got them in, or helped facilitate getting them in. So
Yeah. You've got 3 drivers in Coke, right?
I hope Tyler Hudson feels, and the whole staff feels the same way about the relegation as they do about the open setup, even though it's not a part of real racing. That just makes it really the top of the mountain, that you have to keep yourself in the league based on results, not just being able to buy a charter.
I like that idea. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens to Elliott Motorsports or esports. Will they become one of these front-end Coke teams, or will they have to be farmed out to other people and he's just the back-end team, kind of like North Force, or how is that going to work? I don't know.
We'll try to find out.
All right. Well, it's the end of the year, and it's award time. And we saw on Twitter the VCO Simi Awards have been announced, and iRacing wins for the best platform. And pretty nice little video showing, Kevin Bobbitt and iRacing taking the trophy. There were other winners as well. Jimmy Broadbent, who's a famous streamer, he made it to their Hall of Fame that they have, as well as some other notables: Fanatec, iRacing, Max Verstappen, Porsche.
Isn't it the best name for an award, though, the Simi Awards? I think that's cool.
And the best driver went to someone who runs the F1 2020 console game. Wasn't that right?
Yeah, I didn't know who it was, obviously, because he doesn't run iRacing.
Exactly.
Who?
So, guys, that's not the only awards that have been given out at the end of the year. In another set of awards this season, the Sports Business Journal's 2020 Year-End Awards for Best Esports Content was awarded to iRacing, noting their average of 1 million viewers during their Fox broadcast this spring with their Pro Invitational Series. So iRacing takes the award from the Sports Business Journal for the best esports content. And that's a hard one to disagree with in any way. No other esports have had that kind of impact, even during these lockdowns and everything else.
Yeah, we saw in the spring the NBA trying to do something, online, and they weren't getting any eyeballs. I mean, we definitely got the majority of the ratings, so to speak, on Fox and NBC and whatnot. So, kudos to them. This is, I think, a more prestigious award than the VCO Simi Awards, because the Sports Business Journal, like I said, Adam Stern and those guys, they're the go-to source for, anything racing.
Well, the other thing is it's really it's up to. This is the only sport you could get in where it's a single person sport that you can show on TV too, or streaming, where you get in the car and it's you driving it. When they were, like you were saying, Mike, when they were trying to do the hockey and baseball and basketball and stuff on TV to simulate while everything was out, those are all team sports where you're operating multiple players in the game, right? It's a little bit different, where at least you can relate by getting behind the wheel here, right?
Yeah, watching, the NBA guys, with their PlayStation controller, playing a video game is not the same as, watching Kevin Harvick, behind the wheel and doing his thing, because I think sim racing really translates.
About the only way you could do it is if you actually had, like, VR and a person for every player on the court.
Yeah. It's the thing that makes sim racing so much more realistic than any other sport is the motions, the movement, and the skill are all the same skills that you would use doing the actual sport that you're simulating. You're pressing a button for a jump shot in the NBA. You're not actually taking a ball and jumping and shooting a ball. Whereas in iRacing, you're shifting the cars, you're hitting the brakes and an accelerator, and that translates to the same movements that are actually happening in the real life counterpart. And that's always what makes sim racing different than all these other sports simulation games, to me.
I think this ties into the other story about the Friday night broadcast for NASCAR. I think NASCAR, if you look at it from their point of view, they're trying to cut costs by getting rid of, qualifying and practices because that worked so well this year. But they still have a TV contract they got to live up to. So how do you fulfill both those items? Well, let's bring sim racing in on a Friday or Saturday to help Fox, sell some commercials on those days when otherwise we're not on track. I think it's a brilliant idea. Okay, I got the next one in a tweet from Porsche Motorsports. They remind us that January 9th, we begin the new season of the iRacing Porsche Tag Heuer Super Cup Series with Sebastian Job looking to defend his championship from this last season. Man, it seems like it was just over, and here we go again.
Yeah, they did the same thing they did with the sprint cars. They really bumped it up to the beginning of the year because the dirt sprint cars started in spring last year, and that's about the same time that the Super Cup started last year. They've bumped it up early in the schedule, and my thought might be that they're opening the other part of the calendar up for maybe the new Dallara IR01 car and the series that's going to be part of
later in the year. Yep. Yeah, I think if you're a road guy and you're not working on that Dallara car, you're missing out because that's going to be the future, I think, of the World Championship.
Now, if you want to be a pro road guy, yeah. Before we jump to the next topic, I'm going to pull us a little bit off script and toss things over to Tony, who's about to take off and set up for one of our community races we have coming up.
Yeah, so the Aftermath is holding the New Year's Eve Bash Fun Race tonight at the iRacing Super Speedway. Practice actually kicks off here in just a couple of minutes. We're going to practice for about an hour, let everybody kind of congregate and jaw-jack and do whatever they want to do. The qualifying will start about 9 o'clock, and then the race will proceed afterwards. A bit of a crazy race tonight. It's going to be multi-class. We're running the Cup car, the COT car, and the Indy car. And we're going to go for 40 laps. Not going to do any damage tonight. And what else do we got going? Yeah, no damage, full cautions. And Mr. Rochette says he's got some other surprises, so I don't know what those are.
Sound effects?
Yellows don't count?
No, we are definitely counting caution laps. We just won't have any damage. 3 different types of cars. We're going to be going super fast. People are going to be wrecking. We just want to get people out there. It's all about, just having fun. So we'll see what else he's got in store. It's probably going to be something silly. Knowing Tony, but that's all good. It'll be a good time. I know we got a bunch of the ladies of iRacing going to come out and join us tonight. I'm sure we'll see some of the fellas from the OBRL, and it's a 60-car field, so we'll see who all shows up. Anybody listening live, they want to jump in at 9 o'clock or shortly there before, come on out. It'll be a lot of fun.
So which car is the fastest of these 3?
Oh,
The Mazda.
Yes, definitely the Mazda. I think it's pretty close between the COT and the Indy car, but there's not a whole lot of difference between the 3 cars, but there is a little bit.
I think the COT, in my experience with this particular track, And another thing I just thought of, how come it's not Coke Speedway yet? I mean, we thought it was just a hiccup in marketing, but, man, it's been a few weeks, and we still haven't heard anything about Coke Speedway.
Yeah, that's kind of weird. I'd like to be a little fly on the wall to know what's kind of going on there. I figured, Coca-Cola would want to jump all over that. But, yeah, maybe soon. Hashtag soon, I guess.
Maybe never.
There's got to be a risk or something that we're not thinking about, that the reason they're not doing it.
All right, well, we're going to jump onto that as soon as the recording's over. I'll be there. Hope to see everybody on track.
Yeah, be looking forward to seeing you guys out there. But in the meantime, have a great rest of the show.
Thanks, Tony.
So we got a quick hit here. Dale Jr. has been building his own PCs for quite a while, and here's his newest build. And it's got a lot of orange lights.
Looks like a Ryzen setup to me. I can't tell, though, for sure. And what kind of card does he got there? I think that's the 3090. Yeah, he just put up one picture of it, so it's kind of hard to tell what he's got in the box, but he did indicate this is his first solo build. So maybe he's done builds before with help, but this is the first one he's built on his own.
Yeah, and actually, in that post that he sent out, he actually talks a lot about the field of IT, and how much he enjoys doing that kind of thing as far as working with technology, fixing things, and getting things to work like that, and even says that if he wasn't a race car driver, that might have been something he might have done for a living.
Dale Jr., the IT nerd.
All right, guys. The next story we got is from pro driver Pippa Mann. She tweeted that she started using blue light glasses, like the blue blocker glasses, and for when she's in races, and it's really helped her out with depth perception, and she's had a lot less problems with headaches after her racing sessions. So so she runs a triple monitor setup, and she's been using those blue blocking glasses, and she says they really help her with headaches and field of view and depth perception.
I'll nerd out a little bit for you on this one. Blue light has a shorter wavelength, and the photons that come out of it are higher energy, so they can put a lot more strain on the eyes. Interestingly, you can also actually turn a blue light filter on in Windows, as well as most phones, which is also better for helping you get to sleep at night. If you have less blue light coming into your eyes, your body is able to think it's more nighttime. So either option is a good option.
So when I saw this, first of all, I was surprised Pippa Mann, who's an IndyCar driver, is on the sim. I had no idea she was an iRacer. But I'd never heard of people using blue light glasses to sim race. That's a new one.
Well, it's popular in a lot of professional gaming in general, but it definitely hasn't shown its way onto the racing part of it yet. But it'll be interesting to see how that translate over maybe more people get into it now.
Maybe they will come up with a VR insert.
Okay, this next one is a quick hit about some January special events. Ryan Vargas, Xfinity driver, is introducing his NutriShop Monterey Park East Street Stock Showdown. $500 to win a 75-lap street stock event at Auto Club. $8 to enter. There's a 200 cap on entries. The event will be January 27th and will be broadcast on Podium.
We got another quick hit, same vein. FTF Racing League is hosting the FTF 500 at Daytona on the 31st of January, and it's going to be live on Bottom Split TV, I guess, with a purse of at least $1,700. $500 is guaranteed to the winner. There is sponsorship for the duels, and I don't know what the tiny text race means, but there's some other information in the tweet as well.
This FDF has really come on strong on social media, trying to get interest driven up on this. I think they're trying to compete with the Podium 500.
And so they're on different days.
Yeah, these special events are filling up quick. I saw the one Ryan Vargas posted for the Street Stock Showdown is already 3/4 full, and the registration's only been over 2 days now. I think it's filling up quick on these guys. So the next one, as you mentioned before, is the Podium Esports. Their third annual Daytona 500 event called the Podium 500. That's going to be on February 7th. And it has a $10 entrance fee. Last year, they had 175 entries. And I didn't see any payouts yet, but I can tell you that in the first 2 years of this show, there has been combined $12,000 in payout money for those races. So it's going to be a big payout race as well.
I've never been one to run money races, really. So I always like to watch these, but I don't participate.
Yeah, money races at a stricter plate track just seems like disaster written all over it. But the Podium 500 has test sessions. They have heats all leading up to the February 7th, so it's like a week long process. So if you want to join that one, keep an eye. Go to the PM Esports website and look under the Podium 500, and it'll give you all the details.
Yeah, like a Speed Weeks kind of thing. Yep.
Correct. Yep.
All right, next up, email from a listener about how do we farm iRating. He said, this is from Derek Branham. He said, hello, I hear you guys talking about farming iRating. What does that mean and how is it done? I mostly do league races, but want to get back into official races. Thanks and great show. So what does it mean, guys?
Well, I'm probably the one for the road course side when it's an oval race. The week that I took off, I farmed iRating by being one of my best tracks, and I went from 1,800 iRating to 2,800 iRating in a week, just knowing that I could finish well at this track and do great. I know, David, you have a more recent one you did at was it Imola or Spa that you went farming for iron, but it's basically just when you're good at a track, try and run it as much as you can, and just that's usually what happens. Is if you got one of those weeks where you just hit on it, that's the time to farm it if you really want to farm iRating.
Yeah, if you can finish top 5, every race, man, that's farming right there. Let's stack them up, as I say.
Yes, and also just continue to survive.
Right, and if you have good sets for a particular track or a particular car, that always helps.
Yeah, kind of like when Isaac was on earlier, and he said they had that kick butt set up for Atlanta. I mean, that's when you farm. When you have a setup can win. Well, hey, go run Atlanta 50 times that week and just get as much iRating as you can.
Yeah, if you just pull it down, it's just maximizing your exposure to events and cars that you're really good at and minimizing the ones that you're not. So you get the best results that you could possibly get.
So this next one ended up being a pretty long thread, and I got to chime in on it a little bit, and then got a little vindication with a supporting reply from somebody else. Essentially, somebody was complaining about dive bombing LMPs, and yeah, you can't dive bomb, but I've talked about this before. Some people, there's an issue with GTEs thinking that they're entitled to get to run the perfect lap every lap too. And I've had an issue today with a couple of people just refusing to lift when I was outside them at the carousel at Watkins Glen. They think that means they can still run into the side. And I basically posted that if the car's already there, you can't hit them, and it's then your responsibility to back out. And it was a lot more long-winded than that, but I had somebody immediately reply and basically say that my thread should be required reading. So I actually felt a little justified there.
Yeah, you're not the only one who thinks that. And, yeah, like you said, other people chimed in and supported your hypothesis there.
It's pretty simple. I give up time all the time. If I can't get in there before you can break, right? But you're not always going to be able to get the perfect line, and so that's where the give and take happens. And some of them just refuse to accept that. How's that ugly Christmas sweater, even though Christmas is over, Brian?
Funny you should ask. So the NASCAR's website, they have a section called NASCAR-sasm. So it's some sarcastic stuff about NASCAR. And in that section, they asked fans of who paint for iRacing cars to paint up the ugliest holiday car that they can manage to paint up. And like the one that we have here on the script looks like an ugly sweater that's basically pasted onto a car. It's actually very well done, but man, is it ugly. And there's a whole bunch of those in that section if you want to go look through NASCAR's website for their sarcasm page.
I almost love the names of the paint jobs more than the paint jobs. We got the Reindeer Reddick scheme for Tyler Reddick. They had the Denny mask homage, which the famous Denny Hamlin mask he was wearing, it looked like a mouth, and it's got it all over the car and real big on the hood. That one was pretty cool. But the Cole Custer Punmobile, I think, was my favorite. And then they had the Sadler Nom Nom as well. Or maybe the Squinter Wonderland, which was the Joey Logano one. That one was pretty cute. All right, so with that, we're going to go into housekeeping. Don't forget that we have a new website, guys, where we have great script with visuals and links and everything we discuss you can see visually. It's real easy. iRacersLounge.com. Check it out, guys. And while you're listening, go look at the page, and it's a really neat experience to see it visually while you're listening. Don't forget we're on the Performance Motorsports Network, and with that, hardware, software.
All right, guys, I'm going to take this first one. It's an interesting story that I added to the show today. And so a lot of people have been getting the HP Reverb G2, the new VR headset. And across the board, the biggest complaint has been with the sweet spot in it. So basically, anything out of the center view that you're looking at looks blurry in your peripheral vision. And so one of the VR reviewers, his name Sebastian Ang. He has a YouTube channel called MRTV, Mixed Reality TV. Well, he did an initial review of the HP Reverb and said that the sweet spot was very good. And he's been getting bombarded with people who have been responding to his review and saying their sweet spot isn't as big as what he says, that it's actually quite small. So what he is pitching is that he's having people send them their VR headsets, their HP Reverbs, sending them to him, and he's going to test them compared with the model that he has to see if maybe there's a difference in the lenses between the production model and what maybe he got as far as a S model maybe. So he's going to take just random people who's going to send them their VR headsets and test it out. And he's going to see if there's an issue with maybe not having the same lenses, or maybe people aren't actually adjusting it properly. And that's something he's going to do over the next couple weeks. So I'm going to keep an eye on this investigation that he's doing to see what the deal is with the HP Reverb G2 Sweet Spot.
Now, teammate David Flowers just got his headset, and that was one of the first things he mentioned. He said, hey, such and such looks blurry. And so I reminded him, hey, when you buy these things new, there's a plastic film over the glass. You don't forget to pull that off. And actually in the forums this last week, Will Sutton from RaceSpot, he admitted to the forum community that he actually raced several times with that film on it and didn't even realize it was there.
David did make sure that he had already taken his film off, but yeah, he did immediately notice that if he didn't have the reverb pointed straight at his gear shift icon, where it tells him the little black box that tells you what gear you're in, he couldn't see. It was foggy on him.
Yeah, that should be interesting. I'm going to keep an eye on that, and we'll update you guys with what he finds out when he gets other commercial units sent to him from other viewers. We had a story about this a couple weeks ago where a guy said he was returning his for the same issue. So it's been something. I noticed that my sweet spot is a little on the small side as well. That was one of the things that I said when I first got mine. But it doesn't really bother me racing at all, so it's not something that I'm really terribly concerned about. But I'm still interested in seeing how this develops.
So our next hardware item is a RaceX new Pro Cockpit. They are showing the work in progress, and I just have, sorry about that, I'll turn my phone off here in a second. They're showing the work in progress of the revamped Pro Cockpit, and I just have the one picture. It's a two-frame style with some extra bracing, though. It's got the two-frame, but it's got some extra sheet metal in a kind of a triangular form that's going to give it a lot of extra strength.
It kind of welded into the corners.
Mm-hmm. So it's definitely going to be a very sturdy build, and it almost looks like a shock absorber or something going up towards the actual wheel mount.
Yeah, I couldn't figure out exactly what the heck that is.
It's a pivot. It's a pivot point, so you can adjust the angle. If you look at it, there's an adjustment on it.
You tilt it up or down a little bit.
Yeah, but there's no in or out, or I don't know if the seat moves in or out from what we got here. Does the seat move back and forth? Like, how would you...
It doesn't look like it, no.
You can go up or down, but you can't go in or out, right?
The brake, the place for the pedals is adjustable as well. You can see that there's holes along the side where you can adjust those side rails to get a tilt, or lay it flat, or if you want to tilt it or whatever.
Now, what looks the flimsiest is actually the pedal stand. It looks like it's just hanging by a wire.
Yeah, so check out RaceX. They got something new there going. I don't know a lot about this company, though. Okay, the next one up is the Sim Magic Alpha Servo DD pre-order. And so Sim Magic Alpha will be available to ship in early January, and they're taking pre-orders now. The Alpha is the flagship direct drive wheelbase from Sim Magic. It comes with 15 Nm of torque delivered by a servo motor. The Alpha wheelbase is equipped with the same quick release used with the Sim Magic M10 wheelbase. This allows you to use any steering wheel with a 50 mm or 70 mm bolt pattern in conjunction with the Sim Magic wheels and button boxes. So an updated wheel from Sim Magic. This is the one out of Hong Kong. And somebody on the team was talking about getting a direct drive wheel, and I told them, hey, they should take a hard look at this wheel before they decide. At first, I think we were a little concerned about, where it came from, is there a warranty and that kind of thing. But now they have, American distributors and whatnot. They've been out in the wild for a while. There's a lot of reviews. And yeah, I think it would be reasonable to consider this for purchase.
I think the hardest thing is the direct drive market. When you don't have a name in it right now, it's really hard to come up with something, right? Like we know the companies that we kind of would trust to go after. Something new always is harder to do it, right?
On the same token, I've heard a lot of horror stories with Fanatec tech support lately.
I think Fanatec's been over their head with I think they're just being bombarded with too much work for the size of the company they are.
The price, $1,150, I see. And you can get these at sim-motion.com, it looks like is the website.
So this next piece of hardware actually was sent to us from Gridfinder, our great sponsor, and they posted a Twitter link to a teaser from Thrustmaster of a possible upgrade to their open wheel rims. So they're just teasing that they have a new product coming out in 2021. They just all they show is a silhouetted view of what obviously looks like a Formula style wheel with maybe paddle shifters, maybe two sets of paddle shifters possibly. And yeah, so that's coming out. No details have been really unveiled yet. So look for that to be coming out pretty soon, and I'm sure we'll get once more details come out, we'll fill you guys in on what that turns out to be.
Well, it looks like it'll be an interesting wheel. I hope they don't use a brand and that jacks the price up, like it becomes a Ferrari or a McLaren or a Mercedes or something type of rim. They just have, Thrustmaster's the more economy rim, so I hope they don't have a price expected of trying to be a little bit more with their stuff if they brand it with something else. Maybe just make a nice Formula rim, right?
Yeah, and Thrustmaster's kind of known for their low price wheels and whatnot. So yeah, I think you're onto something, Greg. If they can keep it nice and cheap, that's going to fit right in with their product.
Well, isn't their I can't remember, is their last one a Ferrari rim? I think it was a Ferrari symbol in the front of it, but I don't think it was expensive. I could be wrong, though. I guess I'll jump on this one, David. I've fixed everything, so we're good here. I'll jump on this because I know this rim more than I'm using it right now as my push-to-talk button. But Fanatec has released their new McLaren CSL Elite McLaren GT3 version 2, which, if anybody that's gotten this McLaren rim, this should have been their version 1 rim. This is what it should have had. What they've updated is to the magnetic shifters and just kind of refine some of the problems, I guess, that the McLaren rim had from the beginning. But it's a nice add, and it's also made that it's their cheapest Formula rim as well on the thing. I think it's $199 on the site, if I remember correctly.
Yep, that's right.
Yeah, so that's a perfect price point to have a nice, this has everything on the rim that you need for running Formula or a GT race or any of the LMP stuff that we have. It has all the buttons that you're going to need. You got switches, toggles, you got the analog, dual clutch. Not many things use dual clutch in it, but they do come in handy. David and I both can attest to that. Dual clutch does come in handy when you need it. But yeah, this is a perfect price point for their lowest Formula rim.
Did yours have the knob, the click rotary knobs that in the middle there? I don't remember those.
Yeah, they have. Mine has all the same knobs and buttons, but like I said, I think that they got the magnetic shifters, which was the biggest problem with the version 1, where you would miss shifts or it would double shift or not shift at all, and that's what people were sending them in for, was RMAs or whatever, and it caused a whole lot of problems with this rim. But and a lot of people would just upgrade and make their own magnetic shifters for it. But this is a very good replica of the actual rim that you get in the GT3. There's been a bunch of, I think I saw Dave Dave Cam review one of these, and he really liked the rim.
So is that something you'd be interested in picking up, Greg, or are you going to stick with what you got?
Well, I have the original one, so I've not had any issues. But at the $199 cost, if I ever had to actually replace or something because I had the misshift problems, and I've been running a lot more road this last year, and I use this for my cup car when I'm doing the road courses as well. But I would only upgrade to it if I was in need of another Formula rim. But David makes a good point when I've talked to him. I think I would actually go to the other rims, the other F1 rims, or just to spend some more money because they are better and they got some better options for it. I would probably upgrade if I ever did have a problem.
The best thing out of having to wait for 4 months for my DD1 is that I ended up getting that Formula rim free.
Yeah, that's a bonus, right?
Yeah, that was their I'm sorry, basically, token. It was a $300, actually a $400 I'm sorry. So.
Yeah, that was the V2 rim, is that right, Dave?
Yeah.
All right, guys. Up next is a rig review sent in by a listener, Eric Whiting, who's actually an OBRL member. So, how you doing, Eric? So he sent in a video of Facebook of a sprint car simulator. It's not something that you could buy. It was custom designed by the engineers at Rome Racing, and man, did they do a job on this thing. So it is actually a full tube sprint car chassis that they've built monitors into the front for the front display. It's got triple monitors, and the monitors on the left and right hand side of this sprint car, after you climb into the cockpit and sit in the chair, they close around you like a clamshell, basically. So the left and right hand monitors for the triples, they close in around you, and the roof actually automatically closes down on top of you. So it really surrounds you inside of that car, and it's amazing. It's really well done. Of course, it's fully motion. The actual motion sensors or motion actuators are attached to the actual torsion bars that a sprint car would normally have that attach to your from the torsion bar to your axles. So it's really cool to see, and they show video of it in full test. You can't see what the person sees from the front or the side because he's completely encapsulated inside this clamshell design. But if you stand behind him and look through the bars of the seat, you can see what the driver is seeing, and it's fantastic.
Wow, how cool is that hydraulic monitor that kind of moves in and out? You have to crawl into this chassis, and then it closes in, and boy, it really does look immersive when you're sitting in it.
I wonder if those monitors are locked shut if the power goes out.
Yeah, how do you get out, right?
The worst part, or the best thing too about this, is he's kind of simulating VR. If you think about it, he's basically closing the whole world in on himself, where he doesn't have anything on the outside that is distracting him. He's inside and focusing forward, but he's just got the advantage of having a triples and being actually in it. But when you're in VR, you actually feel like you're sitting in something. He's sitting in it and actually enjoying it, immersed in the actual process. Like, you're right. If something goes power functions, you'd hope that he'd be able to push those doors open.
It's amazing that the PC fits right where the engine would be perfectly and doesn't get touched by all the motion. They have it like perfectly set in there. And then the motion itself, man, I mean, there's a lot of travel. It looks like the custom hydraulic is what it looks like.
Somebody spent some money.
Pretty cool what a race shop can put together with an old chassis. Fascinating for sure. All right, I think we have time for one more rig review. Jack Dow Motorsports shows off their 3,000 PSI hydraulic motion platform official NASCAR simulator. It was part of the racing league called Silicon Motor Speedway. You guys might have seen this before if you've been to one of these large arcades where they have chassis like this, where you could race, like, one of the NASCAR games. But they put motion on it and made it pretty cool.
More things to just have fun in, I guess, right?
So this reminds me, like at the NASCAR Hall of Fame, they have a bunch of these cars that kind of look like, Jeff Gordon's 24, and it's got the paint job, and it's got the window net and everything, and you crawl in it. They basically bought one of those and put it on some kind of custom motion thing and run an iRacing in it. Pretty cool.
So what's that? That's 3 curved monitors. What are those 49-inch monitors?
Yeah, that's an interesting choice of monitors, and they have them outside of the car. I don't know how that would look visually, but...
Those are extra wide, aren't they? It's a little bit larger than the regular dimension.
Yeah, and like Greg was saying about the previous sprint car build, where it's almost like VR because there's no surrounding visuals other than the actual simulator running. This you would see a ton of surroundings around you. You'll see everything else that's in the room, and you'd only be focusing on the monitors in front of you. It's not quite nearly as immersive as the one we just did, but you would definitely get the feeling of getting into and behind the wheel of a stock car.
Yeah, absolutely, and there's even a Goodyear rubber tire on it and everything. I mean, gets that look for sure. All right, and with that, we're going to move on to results and talk about that. Of course, we don't have NIS. We're off season, so who wants to start here? I guess I will.
Well,
how about you, Dave?
Yeah, there we go. Euro Sprint Series, 2 wins at Sebring, 2 wins in Imola.
Farming, right?
That's how you farm.
Something about Imola just clicked. I didn't get the 7 wins, but I also went out of town, for family for most of the week, so I only ran half the week. I really enjoy Sebring too. I've had a lot of podiums at Watkins Glen, but I've just always had somebody in the race that is 1 or 2 seconds faster than me per lap.
Well, talking about something that clicks, I've been looking for something to run in the off season, and I've been having a hard time finding it. I finally think I might have found it with the Ferrari GT Challenge fixed at Oran Park. And I sat down for the first time in that track and got a P5. Only had one off track too. I think I was starting to pick up learn that track a little bit. So I decided to go farming. Got a P3 with only 3X. Then I got a P8. The first turn I actually got dumped bad. I was dead last out of 19, and I quickly moved back to 8th. I was loving it, so I ran it again. I got a P8 again. Was high as 3rd, but spun off bad and rallied back to 8th. The next time, a P7. I was starting like 6th after my best Q ever. After the pace car ducked off, the leader slowed way down to almost nothing and then went, and it stacked us up really bad. In fact, I actually protested him for that. I went back and looked at the replay, and he went down 20 mile an hour from like 45 to 25 after the pace car left, and then he went. And I'm pretty sure that was a successful protest. The next time I ran, P2, same pole sitter did the same thing, but I was ready for it this time, and P2. So I was running them every hour that night. So the next day I tried it again, P7, started 13th after a box Q, up to 6th on the first lap, had issues with the car that would all but stop in those S's, and so I spun off behind him, went back to 14th, rallied back to 7th, but 10X. Then I got a P10. It was a horrible race, spun off by myself 3 times. I was just starting to get cocky, too, and I think I actually said out loud to the group I was farming. But that's kind of how iRacing is. If it was easy, nobody would do it. But as soon as you get cocky, that bad luck in driving will bite you, and you got to keep your ego in check. Tried it again, P8. Actually followed everybody off track in turn 1, lap 1. Put well back, but recovered well. Did run my fastest lap ever at that track so far in that race. And then P17, started P17, ended P9, and then another P9. And so I had a good time at the Oran Park. And then I ran it the next week at Lime Rock and didn't do so well and parked it. Actually, all the iRating I farmed at Oran Park, I lost at Lime Rock. So it didn't translate to the next week. So I guess I'm back to square one on what to run.
About the only other thing we had going on was a few league races. We never got to talk about it. Me and Greg ran MTech, and as
Did
well as
Did we?
a couple of weeks ago. Well, we ran at it. The competition committee agrees with us that they regret choosing GT4s instead of GT3s in this mix because the pace difference is so ridiculous that it's just not safe. It's not possible for the cars to be safe around each other, really. But we had some GT4s that basically did the exact same thing as I've been complaining about with the GTEs in the Le Mans races. We're passing one on the outside, and he decides that makes it too hard for him to complete the lap without lifting or losing a little bit of time, so he just keeps coming right on over and wipes us out.
Yeah, Greg, you weren't very happy, were you?
Well, the worst part of that whole thing was David, you started the race, and I think I had the broadcast on, and I was watching while you were doing it, because I mentioned to you before the race that they were working on a power line outside my house, so we were kind of nerving if they were going to actually cut the power or not, but the worst part of that whole race was there was only 3 GTEs or GT4s left. There was 10 that started. 3 of them, by the time I got in the car, were the only ones that were left. And I think there was only 1 on the lead lap because they were in wrecks with the LMP. They're LMP2s in that, right? Yeah, it was the LMP2s. And the speed difference, I think, was 40 seconds a lap. They lapped them every 3 laps.
Yeah, and the competition committee agreed that the pace difference is too much, but they're kind of stuck with it for the season. So we got 3 more races. We'll make up it what we can. Road Atlanta is next.
Road Atlanta is going to be interesting because those S's are really going to be slow in those GTE 4 cars, and that's where there's going to be some very impatient LMP2s.
Well, and GTs. We're not going to want to just sit
Yeah,
back there.
true. That's true.
And maybe you pass them on the outside, and they'll be like, "You took away my line."
All right, I ran a Fast Track Sim Racing League recruitment race they had a few days ago. It was the A car at Kansas. I got a P8. It was a full field, like 40 cars. I was running 4th on the white, but I killed the wall trying too hard. Alan Pajari wins. He was quick. He was open set. He had a good set, obviously. But Jeff Marble runs that league with his son Tyler. We've had them on the show before. They have a good league shaping up on Mondays. It's going to be the A-car open sets and half distance. We were talking, David, this might be a good practice league to run on Mondays before NIS, but Jeff indicated that they're following the NASCAR schedule, but after the fact. So, like when they run the real Daytona 500, then they'll run their Daytona the Monday night after.
At that point, I'll already be working on the next week's set with Morley.
I don't know if Jeff wants to adjust that maybe, and maybe we'll jump in. If he followed it where it was the week before, yeah, that would shape up real well for us. And then Winter League, let's talk about that. I ran DNF at Daytona. I had a good run going. even led some laps, but I got a bit loose and spun on my own. And this is the Legends car, and this has always happened to me at Daytona and the Legends. I don't know what it is. When you get clean air on this car, it just comes around, and I can't get my handle on it at all, and I'm kind of embarrassed by that. And then we ran the Cup race, the regular Cup cars at Texas, and I got a P22 out of 25. There were no cautions. I suck. I hit the wall a few times, actually.
In that same race, I was P17, no cautions. I didn't have some pace, tapped the wall just a little bit, which hurt the car in the long run. It probably would have been like P13 or P14 if I had not tapped the wall, but it was just, there was no chance to kind of gather back up and catch back up after that first run. Then we were in Martinsville also. We had the week off, so we got two races worth in. P14, I kind of fluctuated between P5 and P14 depending on tire strategy. And my New Year's resolution, in fact, officially now, is to never, ever listen to Mike Ellis on tire strategy.
Yeah, that did screw us up. I was crew chiefing for both of us as far as strategy. I ended up P18. I ran top 12 most of the race. I mean, we both qualified up there near the top 10, and we kept our track position pretty much through the first good portion of that race. But at one point, we'd been 40 laps on the tires. I said, hey, it's time to come in. Me and David pulled in. Nobody else did really, and that put us back, and we never really recovered from that. And it kind of went downhill for me after that. But still, even though I didn't have a good finish, I was happy with how I was running. You got to remember the Winter League has a lot of heavy hitters in there. We had 2 Coke drivers, if you count Christian. They finished 1, 2, 3, of course, up front. And it's really hard. Normally I'm fighting, for last place in this league, but to be running top 12, top 10, working my way forward a few times up to maybe 6, I was happy with how I ran.
Brian, so you were first place loser at ARCA?
Yeah, it's first loser, P2 at the OBRL ARCA Series race at Kentucky. So I actually started P2 and ended up there. And man, what a great race! It was 120 laps. We had no cautions, and not a single driver had a single incident point in the whole race. I don't think I've ever seen that before in any league or obviously or regular race. So that was and I really enjoyed Kentucky as well because as far as mile and a halves go, the turn 1 and 2 are completely different than turn 3 and 4, and you don't usually see that in these mile and a half cookie cutter type tracks. So yeah, I had a good run. Qualified well. The leader was probably a second and a half in front of me at the end of the race, and he was just a little too fast for me to catch. But OBRL P2, I'll take it. Chris Gales was in the race with me. He finished. I think he was in P4, so he did real well too.
He's been hot recently in OBRL. Chris has.
My question to you, Brian, is you said there was no incidents by anybody?
Not a single incident point throughout the entire field.
Wow.
I would like to see and this isn't just, it might be a total thing, but I'd like to see the amount of passes that were made in that race, because if you got 0 incidents through the whole field, there's some people that aren't trying real hard. It just seems.
It's possible that some people took it easy. It was a 22, 24 car field, so it wasn't it was a halfway decent sized field. But yeah, I can't tell you how many people were changed positions because they really didn't check that out at the end of the race. I know there was a couple close calls with lap cars when I was coming through the field, but yeah, I'd have to look at that and see how much dicing up there was in the back.
And sorry, David, and if there wasn't, and I'm not trying to be, I'm just saying it seems very odd, but if that's the case and the guys did that, that's a great job on everybody's part. But it just, in my opinion, it screams that it wasn't very competitive. Maybe, I don't know. It just, but
Seems odd, yeah, for sure.
Well, that league's not trying to set up to be a broadcast race. Their number one goal is caution-free races. They have a 9x limit, and you have to penalize yourself if you cause a caution, or they have an extreme don't cause cautions policy, basically.
And it works, apparently.
Right.
it's good on them
And,
for it.
And they also have the IPL limit, the incident per lap limit, where after 4 races, if you average a certain IPL, you get penalized for the upcoming race. So it definitely incentivizes caution-free racing, and that's what they'll get sometimes like this.
And I'm not discouraging it. I mean, if they run a great league over there, it just seemed odd to hear that. Like, I can understand like half the field or something, there was only minimal incidents, but to have every single person in the field, it doesn't scream iRacing to me. I don't know, or a league race of some point.
It definitely wasn't that Imtech race.
Yeah.
Well, how about the Aftermath Truck Series?
Yeah, so the Aftermath Truck Series, Chris and I also raced in that one. He got, I think he was in the P9, and I think I finished P14. And this is the one, like Greg was saying, where I didn't really push any envelopes. I played it very safe. I expected to see some cautions in that race, and there was one early, but that was it for the whole race. So by the time the field kind of spaced out, it was really hard to make up a lot of time. And that was at Michigan, by the way. So it just seemed like it was everybody's flat out for the first 10 to 15 laps till the tire wear off. We figured that was going to play into some cautions, and it did one, but that was only one of the race. And I just played it cautious and wound up being a little too cautious and not being able to work my way up towards the back half of the race.
Okay, then OBRL Xfinity at Poconos, Chris Scales P7, Tony Rochette P10. Good race, just not fast enough, he says.
And the last time we were in Eucora, we had a race. I don't remember which track it was. It's been so long. Was it Thompson? Yeah. It was really hard to pass there. You were broadcasting this one. And I ended up P4. And I was one of the only cars that actually made a pass at this place.
Yeah, I jumped into the broadcast with the guy from Midwest Simulations. I'm so sorry, Scott Rupp, right? And I had a great time trying to help, broadcast this event, but there wasn't any passing, and it wasn't because of the lack of trying or anything like that. It was just hard to pass, and everybody's pretty darn good, and you had to really set up somebody to get around him. And David, you'd get underneath him a little bit, and then you just couldn't get the run, and you'd have to let the tires cool down and make it another run. But it was fun to watch, and look forward to the next event. I'm having fun with the broadcast.
Yeah, it would take 10 or 15 laps to set up the pass because the outside line was really the preferred line, and when you'd get low, the car would just get loose. And I finally got one guy, even getting beside him on the straightaway, I finally had to tap him just a little into the next entry. It was true tap, bump, and run. And it was just enough to make him miss the corner. He never got sideways.
All right, and with that, let's get into final thoughts. Brian McCubbin, what do you got?
Well, so we just talked about OBRL races, and man, it's been so fun racing with Chris Scales, talking to him during races. We do a lot of racing together in official races, but with the splits and all, you're not always in the same races with your teammates. But with league races, you're always in the same race, so you can talk with your teammate during the races quite a bit and have a great time, share information. And I know Chris is getting ready to change his work schedule back to where he's not going to be able to do some of these OBRL stuff with me. And I'm gonna miss that when he's not around with me.
All right, David Hall, final thoughts.
I don't know about you guys. I'm running a lot of the road racing right now, but I'm starting to get that itch for some NIS to start back up.
I hear you on that one.
I double hear you. I'm kind of looking for something to run lately. All right, Greg Hectus, final thoughts.
I don't have much racing done this week. Looks most of my stuff has been podcast related. Getting the stream up and going even more. I've worked a little bit harder, or really hard on that this week, and building some stuff. I'm still. What did David? We set him behind. We're calling it the beta as we go through it here.
This is the beta broadcast.
Beta broadcast.
To go along with the beta UI that Mike loves.
So Mike won't watch this broadcast then. Anyways, no, I look forward to doing some racing this weekend and get more racing in next week because I got to go back to work. But yeah, I got a new laptop, so I've been able to do a lot of stuff away from my sim to build stuff, and it's a lot easier. And hopefully you guys like the broadcast once I get it completely going here. Definitely watch us every Thursday at 6:45 on the if you guys can, just to let us know how the broadcast is going too. And you can watch what we're looking at too, which is the nice thing. So I look forward to it. And I'm also building my stream back up so I can be back streaming here soon, hopefully in the next couple weeks, so that I can stream the 24 hours of Daytona, the Rolex race.
Okay, thank you. And then my final thought, thank you to Isaac Gann, our Pro Series champion, for coming on, talking, getting to know him a little bit. And I think we'll continue that, just like we did last year. We'll start to bring these rookie Coke drivers on that we haven't met before and try to get to know them a little bit as we approach the 2021 Coke Series. My thing, man, I'm just kind of jonesing for some racing, and I look at the schedule this week, and I was dismayed. I thought, the 8-car, I'll do some 8-car. Oh, they're at Watkins Glen. Oh. And then I was like, okay, I'll do my Ferrari GT Challenge. Oh, they're at Suzuka, and I don't own the track. And it's just those kind of letdowns. And then I look for, hey, I want to run the big iRacing super speedway somewhere. And it's nowhere to be found. It's unofficial at all. You can find it and host it a little bit late at night, and I've done a few of those and some random hosted stuff, and that's kind of the way the off season goes. But like you guys said, man, I'm ready for the 500. I'm itching for a win there. I think I can do it. I got that confidence. Let's get it. And with that, we'll see you at the track later. Okay, title ideas.